Guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to explode your assemblies in SolidWorks, how to make exploded lines, and how to animate your explosions. If you're new here, I'm Wazi. Welcome to CAD Lab. Alright, welcome in. So to start off, we'll show you how to make basic explosions in SolidWorks. In here, I already have a pneumatic gripper I modeled, and we'll start by going to the Assembly tab and clicking on this exploded view all the way down here. So once you select that, you have this left pane come up, and in here you can select your parts and start the explosions. So as far as the steps or how to explode, there are two ways to do it. First, here is the regular step. You can translate and rotate, and second is the radial step. So starting off with this first step, which is a regular step, I will select that, and this is a window or section where you select your part. So I'll select this lever here, and I'll translate towards the y-axis, and then I can also specify a particular distance here, like 3 inches, and click on done. That's one step done. I will also select this part again and do some kind of rotation. So in this case, I'll rotate along this axis. And once you just drag along the axis, you can then come here to specify the angle at which you want to turn it to. I'll make it 45 and click on done. For the radial one, I'll select radial, and what the radial one does is it takes two bodies. It doesn't work for one body. It works with two bodies or more. So whatever number of bodies you have, it creates an imaginary axis, and the explosions will be relative to that axis. So I'll quit yammering and show you. So I have radial selected here. In here, I'll select my parts. I'll select these two arms, the right arm and the left arm. And once I selected the left arm, you can see this imaginary axis here. You can see I have just one rotation axis here, and I have one direction to pull. So in this case, I'm going to pull away, and I can specify my angle of pull, my distance of pull rather. In this case, I would say 2 inches, and they both would move 2 inches from the original position relative to this axis. Okay, I can also rotate. In the radial selection, I can select this part and this part, and in case of a rotation, you'd see them rotating in opposite directions. So in this case, I could just specify any weird angles like 30 degrees and click on done. So that's about the radial. Also, radial doesn't just work for two parts, it can work for more than two, maybe 4 parts. So in this case, I'll select the screws I have here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I have this one imaginary axis at the exact center point of my assembly, and then I can pull, and you see how that pulls, right? They all move away from that center axis. I know my lever here is blocking it, but you get the idea. So I'll zoom out a bit, bring this closer, and I'll specify a distance like 1 inch. And yeah, looks okay, and click on done. So once I click on OK, we have that explosion done, and it looks weird. It's just a whole lot of experimenting here. But I can come down to my configuration manager here and drop down on this, and I can see the explosion. In this case, it's exploded view 2 because I already have a previous explosion here. But for this exploded view 2, you can double click on it to collapse it, and you can double click on it again to explode it. You can also right click and click on edit feature to go back into the explosion, all the steps we made, and edit them as you choose. So I'll click on OK because there's nothing to edit. And as far as deleting, I will delete my explosion from before, which is this one. Right click and select delete. And that's how you delete your explosions. Click on yes, and that's good. And now putting this back to how it was originally, which is collapsed. I'll come back to my design tree, and now I want to show you something very important, which is explosions that have to do with sub-assemblies, because it's a little bit tricky. So in this design tree, I don't have any sub-assemblies here, but I'll quickly make one. I'll select this guy and this guy. That's this base pad and base. All right, click and form new sub-assembly. Reuse parent origin, boom, we have a new sub-assembly as this. Now I'll make a new explosion, so assembly tab, exploded view here, and then I'll just do basic things from before. This guy, one direction to Y, push it outwards because I don't want to see that guy. And now say I was going to explode this two, that's this base pad and this base from each other. Once I select it, it automatically selects the sub assembly, and sometimes that's not what I want. I just want to pop off one of it. There are other times where you want to explode a sub assembly as its own unit, but in this case I want them separated. So there are two ways to go about it. One is making the explosion from the sub assembly, and number two is making the explosion in here but having something toggled on. So I'll deselect this guy, delete, and the first way is to explode from the sub-assembly. So I'll close this out and I'll select this sub-assembly and open in that position. Now this is it, and in here I'll make an explosion of its own. So I'll select exploded view, and let's say I just want to translate this guy upwards. So click on this window, click on this guy, and I'll move it along y-axis by 25.4 mm, which is an inch, and click on done, click on OK, and yeah, so I'll save that. Then I'll go back to my assembly. All right, so coming back here, I'll select exploded view. Mind you, this is another explosion, so I will move this ball pin away. I'm tired of seeing this guy. Done. And now if I select on this, it's still going to select the sub-assembly, but once you come down here, you see there's an option here that says from sub-assembly, and it's not grayed out like this from part. So I'll deselect this for you to see that originally it's grayed out, but once I select this sub-assembly, it's not grayed out. So then I can select from sub-assembly, and it tracks down that explosion I made in the sub-assembly and it reuses it here. So that's one way. So I'll come all the way up here and click on OK, and that explosion is there. So moving on to the next method, I'll come to my configuration manager here and collapse this guy. So I'll make yet another exploded view, come to exploded view, and then this method doesn't require you to make the explosions from the sub-assembly. So once I want to do that, I should come down here and toggle on this select sub-assembly part. So once you have this selected, you can select bottom level part, that is the original parts of your sub-assembly. So I can click on this base here and translate this guy downwards and click on done, and you can then just explode one part of a sub-assembly. Moving on to exploded lines. For this, I'm going to use our original explosion, which is this exploded view 2. I'll double click on it to activate it, zoom out a bit. And to use exploded lines in SolidWorks, you should come to exploded view here, but you won't select it. You click on this drop down and come to insert or edit smart explode lines. So once you select that, the left pane pops up here, and you can see each and every component that has been exploded. You can see the exploded lines attributed to it, and you can see how to do the routings for the lines. So I'll select this lever one, for example. Once I select the lever one, we can see there's one purple line going here and there's one radial line. All the other exploded lines are yellow, so that's how you can tell it's for the lever. And looking at these exploded steps, if I toggle this off, this was for when we translated upwards, and if I toggle this off, this is the radial one. So the radial ones always come around in circles. I don't really like them because they are not really useful in drawings, but I'll still leave this on just so you can see how it looks. So you can go from part to part, and as far as the routings, there are 3 different ways to select your reference point. You can make it from the bounding box center, you can reference the component origin, and you can reference a custom selected point like this tip, for example. So I always like to leave it at bounding box preference based on the kind of projects I work on. So the arms, you can see the exploded lines we have for this arm here. there's this line and there's a radial one. So I'll toggle off this radial one. The arm 2, we have this, and we have the radial one. I'll toggle off the radial one, so we just have one linear one. And you know what? I'll also toggle off this one because it's ugly. Yep. And these are the screws. We have all of that, and click on OK. And now you can see these exploded lines. You must have seen things like this in assembly manuals, or when you buy stuff from furniture companies and all of that. You see stuff like this showing you how parts come. Generally, any assembly manual. So these lines can be used in your drawings once you have this model imported and you toggle on exploded view. Anytime you show the exploded view in your drawings, it comes up with the lines. And if you want to delete them, you can come here, right click and delete them. So I won't delete this. So I'll collapse this and we'll move on to show you how to animate your explosions. To do that, we're still gonna use this guy, and I'll collapse this. So to animate, you right click on the explosion after having toggled it on or exploding it, and then you can select this animate collapse. So once you have that, you can see, I'll zoom out a bit. This slider comes up, or this playback menu comes up. So this is the play button. I'll replay it again, so you see how everything twists back. Now looking at this controller here, there are other options like playback loop. What the loop does is once you select play, it keeps playing just like every loop on your media player. And there's an option here which is reciprocate, which I really like. And what it does is after it animates your explosion, it animates the collapse, animates explosion, collapse, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So that's it. And if you do want to save your animations, this is a save button, where once you click this, just select the directory and it saves in AVI format or any other file format you like. So one extra tip for you guys is that people don't really know this, but explosions can be copied from configurations to other configurations. If you're not sure what configurations are, configurations in SolidWorks is basically when you have a different version of an assembly in that assembly. So for example, in here, there's this guy I made for a particular reason, but there's this default configuration and I can make a different configuration. So I can just right click on here, add configuration, and here let me just say middle part suppressed parts. Click on OK. And what I'll do here, let's call this a version where all of these guys in this middle part are suppressed, including this. So suppress this, and that's one configuration because I can switch from the default, which has all of the other parts, to this. Now going to my point, in here for the default, you can see it has all those explosions we did from before, and this middle doesn't have. So say for example, I still want those explosions of these arms and any other thing I did, just the exact way I did it there. I see you guys trying to look through the explosions of here, going as far as editing the explosion, not necessarily editing it, but going down here one by one in the exploded view pane to pick out the values and 3 inches and 30 degree and all of that. It's stressful. There is an easy way. So you can just easily suppress this exploded view too. Maybe I don't even need to, but you can just easily drag this guy and drop on the other configuration. And once you drop that, I will then move to this configuration by double clicking, and now there's this drop down showing I have explosions, and you can see copy of exploded view too. And what this does is it takes the explosions from that original view too and import them in here, but it only does it for the parts that still exist. So if I double click on this, it only does it for the arms and the screws. As far as the what did we have? The lever, that whole dusty guy, it's done, so there's no explosion for it. And you also see the exploded lines are here as well. So this, I believe, is an underused tool. If it's, I believe you would find this resourceful. Took me a while to figure it out, and I felt so ashamed the day I figured this out. So yeah, just a little tip for you guys. Also, I almost missed this, but it's a lapse on SolidWorks path. So if I were to be in the exploded feature, this happens barely, I would say 5% of the times. I have found myself in between switching from radial to one direction, radial to regular, one radial to regular, making explosions. Sometimes this guy gets grayed out. For some reason, it's unclickable after you've done this. Sometimes, don't get me wrong, I said 5% of the time it happens. I've been using SolidWorks since 2019. I've used 2019, 2020, all the way down here. It's been 6 years, and this thing still happens. I don't know, maybe there's no complaint or anything about it, but it's something that happens. So, what I'm letting you know is I don't want you to feel you've made a mistake or something is wrong with your software. It happens to almost everyone. So if after executing a radial and this guy is locked for some reason or grayed out, you won't be able to select it. You can just save your explosion the way it is and go back to editing it, and it always comes back up. So it happens a lot of the time. It doesn't even happen to this radial guy. It always happens to this guy. And I have noticed it happens when you're switching from exploded radially and I want to move one direction and radial in one direction, just 5% of the time. So SolidWorks, if you do find this out, please fix up. It's an excellent software. So that's all as far as exploded views, exploded lines, and animating your explosions. And guys, whenever you do make your explosions, please don't do stuff like this. It's yeah, it's not professional. All this was done because I have to show you specific things, radial, translate, explode, sub-assembly, and all of that. But when you do make explosions, there are a few things to look out for. One, you'll need to make sure explosions are neat, your parts are properly spaced, and also whoever views it can tell exactly where your parts are coming from, what is distinct from another. Don't have things overlapping on each other without making sense of it, if you understand what I'm saying. And yeah, go on and kaboom your assemblies. So if you enjoyed this video, do well to like and subscribe. I've been Wazi. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you in the next. Bye for now.